and welcome to the CommonHouse Podcast, the show where we talk about marketing, advertising, and creative that drives business success in the Southeast. Guys, thanks so much for being with us here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we got the guys from the Bourbon and Business Podcast. And before y'all even get started with the introductions, we want to start off with a hot take on you telling us why listeners should check out your show.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is we have a lot of fun. So, that's the number one thing.
If you like to laugh, tune in.
Yeah, we always taste a bourbon, so you can tune in and hear our thoughts on the bourbon. And then also we have, a lot of interesting business owners on. So if you're interested in business, and what it takes to be successful in business, I would say it's a good podcast. And we try to keep it to 30 minutes because obviously it's usually business people listening, so they don't have a ton of time. So we try to keep it to 30 minutes and just jam pack it full of information and then have fun while we're doing it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, we really like to keep it light, but at the same time, we like to kind of dig down into those questions that people don't really seem to ask too much of, like, what were the struggles, when you were in the grind of day one of the business, what was it like? Yeah. Let's talk about like the actual real aspects of it, not just, I'm successful now. It's like, well, let's talk about the 15 years before that. What did you do? Did you want to quit? All those feelings that are actually relatable to our audience.
Yeah, what led up to your success? Yeah. Sure. Well, you guys in your own right are very successful and accomplished in what you do. So take a moment and tell our audience your names and your titles and kind of what you do at your businesses.
Sure. So I'm Adam Horlock. In addition to our podcast, I'm an agency owner. So I own Edit Media. We're a full service marketing and strategy agency. So we'll help both mid and large companies and startups with their strategy, their business foundation. What does it look like in terms of if they're going to raise money or if they're trying to pivot their business or expand into new markets or whatever their circumstance is. We'll help with everything from UX to employee retention and engagement to business transformation all the way through to marketing strategies, campaigns, PR, web, everything else. And so while we have an office here in Jackson, we also are located in Oxford, Memphis, and Nashville.
And my name is Tyler Wiltshire. I'm a insurance agent by trade. We have an insurance protection specialist in Flowood, Mississippi. We're independent brokerage. And so we can do pretty much, if you can think of anything in insurance, we 99% of the time can do it for you.
He's the best, no doubt. And I'm Dakota Tate. I work at First Commercial Bank, and I work in the Trust and Estate Department. We do trust and estate administration. If you're not familiar with trusts, I'm pretty sure you've probably heard of trust fund babies, and we're the people that tell them yes or no, you can spend money. So.
Well, we did a podcast with you guys in the trust department.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It took a minute for me to realize what trust was.
Yeah,
it's an interesting part of a bank.
It's a little difficult to explain, but once you're in it, you're like, oh, this makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you bring in the trust fund babies, or was that a separate episode, or what happened?
Yeah, we brought them in. You gotta talk about it.
They didn't love when they were introed that way.
I'm sure not.
I think we wanted to kick it off with some questions, just because y'all have so much expertise with talking with business owners and kind of getting into the deep parts of their stories like that. So I'd love to just give us what are some of the common threads you've noticed across the businesses you've interviewed.
I guess I can take this one. One of the biggest threads is a founder with a vision. So, or a CEO, doesn't necessarily have to be a founder, but someone at the top that's casting the vision for the whole organization, because the organization is going to only be as good as its leader. And so you got to have someone that is high energy, highly motivated and just really willing to think outside the box, to find ways to do business differently than what the status quo is. Because what happens in business is you run into a problem. And if you have the mindset of, okay, well, this is just how it is, this is how we always done it, we're going to continue to have this problem because this is just what it is, then that's where business becomes stagnant. Having that leader that can say, okay, can kind of pull themselves out of it and say, okay, if we have this problem, how can we fix that? And the businesses that have been successful always have someone at the top that is pushing the envelope as far as trying to figure out how to solve those issues.
It sounds like you're kind of describing folks with a growth mindset, like people who are constantly trying to grow through their problems or just personally. Well, I know it's hard to say what are your favorite episodes because it's like, what's your favorite child? But I'd love to hear, like, have there been any episodes y'all have done that were really surprising or like, wow, we just had no idea? Like kind of Dakota, you mentioned earlier that sometimes those stories we hear behind the stories, anything that stood out to you guys over the years?
There's always surprises that come with every episode, because once you get into somebody's personal life or what makes them tick or why they founded the business or something like that, you're always like, whoa, I had no idea. We had an episode with Nikki Sands, who's the founder of Gigs, and she's like, yeah, I've been on tour with Eric Church and like all these people. And we were like, so you just know them? And she's like, yeah, I mean, they're good people. And like just talking about it casually. And she's like, we're having so-and-so's tour manager come on our podcast later and stuff. I'm like, wow, that's, you're only like 1 degree of separation from, or 3 degrees of separation, whatever it is, from, all these famous people and stuff that you just see on TV, and you think there's no way I'll ever, meet somebody like that or know somebody like that. So that's always a cool aspect. And then you learn about people with special talents. Our latest podcast was Michael Graber in Memphis with Epic Pivot Consulting, and he plays like 6 or 7, maybe 10 different instruments. He's in like 4 or 5 different bands, and like 2 of them are Grateful Dead bands. And I'm like, how do you have different Grateful Dead bands? But it's crazy to understand and like just learn about these people's stories. So those are probably 2 that just stick out to me, because there's just so much more behind the scenes that you don't realize just by meeting them in person.
So someone watching right now, maybe they're in the early days of their business and they're like, man, these guys, they have seen it. They've experienced it in their own life. They've interviewed folks. What advice would y'all have for them in their first couple of years of business?
We've interviewed some really successful CEOs, founders, others. And every guest, to Tyler's point earlier, they've had that vision, but that vision was built on something, whether it was a problem in the market or some sort of something's being under-delivered or forgotten about. And each guest has been able to tell a story of, I was able to solve this problem because we had a vision and a strategy behind it to go after it and go after it successfully like nobody else has. And I can think of several episodes where we've had guests come on and have been able to tell that story, not without struggle, not without some pain. We've had many guests describe whether it's bankruptcy or financial struggle or personal struggle or whatever else, things that they've had to overcome while building it, but to stay to it and still have that vision and that strategy behind it. I think there's been several episodes that have told that story in many ways.
I think that can kind of lead into like a stay ready mindset.
Yes.
You never know when your opportunity is going to come. You never know when your big break is going to happen. You never know when somebody's going to walk through your door and be like, I love this product. I love what you've got going on here. I want to fund it. I want to be an angel investor. I want to do something with you, right? You never know when a business partner is going to call and be like, hey, I want to start a podcast with you. Good luck trying to figure out how to do that.
And hey, you're going to edit it, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So
It kind of sounds familiar.
but
Hell of a deal.
it really was. It really was. You never know what that's going to lead into. Here we are a couple years later. We're just having so much fun. We've met so many great people. So you've just got to stay ready because you may only get one opportunity in life to actually achieve the dream that you want. And if you're not ready for it, it could pass you by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the biggest thing I'd say is just, you got to grind, get after it. People, there's all these formulas and you can sign up for this event or you can sign up for this program or whatever there is. And those things are great. But at the end of the day, if it's missing the work piece, it's not going to be successful. So, if you are starting a business, be sure you're ready to work, more than a 40-hour work week. Yeah. And if you're willing to put that work in over a long period of time, in this country that we live in, you can be successful. As long as it's a good idea, obviously. If it's a terrible idea, then right. Maybe you should stop doing that. But if it's a great idea and there's a market for it and you're willing to work hard, you can be successful.
So if you're listening and you have a terrible idea, just stop.
Yeah, you need to ball it up, throw it in the trash can.
That's right.
If your family and friends don't buy in, it's probably a good idea to not.
Right. Yeah, which I think that does speak seriously to the market testing of your first few years and learning what things work, what things don't work. Speaking of resources, I think for me, I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years now, and some of that early on was just small things and just little ideas. And each year I feel like I hear about a new resource. I'm like, man, I wish I knew about that early on. And I'm sure you guys have come across a lot of different tools for folks. Any resources out there that folks might not realize that would help them grow their business?
Well, off the top of my head, just locally, most places have a chamber of commerce. And we've had several of those on the podcast, and they're doing amazing things for the community. But really and truly, to be successful in business, you have to have a network of people that are going to support you. And where are you going to get that network? You know, you could be successful on social media. That's a little bit harder. I know a lot of people think that you just put a post out and everybody sees it, but you know, you have to grow a following. That takes time.
There's an algorithm.
Immediately, if you are in business, you're trying to get in business, get plugged into your chamber. There are thousands of people that are members of those chambers, and you know, they want you to be successful. I would say so. If you're getting started in business, that's a quick way, just off the top of my head.
I would say customer research. I would make sure that if you're starting a new business, to use this example, know that your potential market is actually going to want to purchase the product or service that you're bringing to market. Do the customer research first. There's a lot of resources to help with that. But to do that first and make what you're doing customer centric and not just chained to, this is my idea, I'm going to launch it, I like it, so we're going to move forward with it. Do it with the customer in mind and let the customer tell you this is going to work, not going to work, or tweak this and that, and then bring it to market.
Yeah.
We've had so many of our guests come on and say, I had this idea and it was great, and then I had to pivot and completely change course, and then their business actually became successful, right? Not that it was a bad idea, it just didn't work in the market like Adam was talking about. And I know there's other conferences and things like Accelerate Mississippi is a great conference that you can attend, and there's all kinds of founders there and people there who are all about startups in Mississippi, growing them. There's incubators, things, it's exactly what it sounds like. You put the business into it and it kind of develops a little bit more and then you launch it. There's all kinds of resources that people just are unaware of, but can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, and anything that's going to put you around people. I mean, you know, most businesses need people to be successful. So if you can do something that's going to put you around people and grow that network, it's going to be helpful. And then this one's going to be groundbreaking, but Google. You know, a lot of people want people just to tell them, "Hey,
you know how to use
this is how you do this." I use my typewriter, but they're like, you know, how do I figure out these problems that are going to come up in business? Well, someone else has probably experienced this problem before. And you know, it may take you doing some research. You may get on Google and find out you got to buy their book or whatever. But there are ways to figure out how to solve these problems, and a lot of times it just requires a little work on your part.
And sometimes those answers might not be your answer, but it gives you an idea where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I think I know how to get from A to B now.
I love your answer about the network, and whether it's through Chamber of Commerce or some other group that you can get involved in, I think is huge. We talk a lot about on the video side of things about, you know, finding ways to build trust with your audience and with your customers and things like that. And a lot of that's on the marketing side, but the fastest way to build trust is in person. FaceTime with person.
No doubt.
You build trust way faster than anything else. And so as a business owner, like getting in front of someone and talking to them, not even about business, just being their friend, I think that creates natural resources for you that can help you grow.
Well, and in the South too, you know, that is a big deal. Trust, you know, people are going to do business with people they know. And it's just kind of because how we've grown up here, everybody, it's a little more spread out. You're not like in New York City or out in California where there's millions of people, you know, so it wouldn't be that a big deal to talk to a stranger about something, about maybe doing their insurance or maybe doing a video for them. But if you approach someone in Mississippi and say, hey, you know, I want to make some videos of you for your business or whatever, they'd be like, what is this person talking about? Or, hey, I want to do your insurance. Well, I don't even know who you are. So I think here, like you were talking about, being plugged in and something that can validate who you are and what you're doing is a big deal.
Going back to the marketing side of things, what do you think, and Adam, this may be a great question for you too, what do you feel is the modern role of marketing for businesses going forward?
Understanding your customer, first and foremost, having the right strategy to address that customer where they are, what they need to hear, when they need to hear it, and why they need to hear it, and then developing the right marketing blueprint to then carry that out. I think there's a lot of businesses and brands, and maybe some listening today, that just feel that marketing is, to your point, putting a post on social media, maybe sending out emails, doing other things, and that in totality is just marketing. And then some sponsorships, some other things. They think that may be marketing, and it's really not. Marketing is big column. And in it really should start with, what does your customer need? What's that right strategy? How do you carry that forward? And it starts with everything that you put out there. So does your website clearly speak to the right audience? And do you know that, or are you just assuming that based on you've just been doing business for so many years and this is what's always worked? And then from there, everything else that you have out there, how does it go back to your customer, their needs? And over time, do those customer needs change? How are you monitoring that, and how are you adjusting to that? And I really think that's where marketing's going and will continue to go over the next few years.
I was going to say the same thing, Adam.
You were?
Yep.
Really?
Just verbatim, yeah.
Okay.
But it's so true though, because I feel like especially nowadays, there are so many marketing tools out there, especially for the average person, that we've never had before. But the problem is, you get excited about all these tools, but a lot of times businesses will just flood into them without any strategy behind it. They just think the tool itself is going to market their business and make it successful, and don't really have any strategy behind how they use them.
You see it. You see it in social media posts that are written by AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see it in other content that's either AI images or whatever else, and it loses. I mean, you're not authentic.
Yeah.
You lose that factor with your audience, and to Tyler's point, the more you can be authentic and the more you can build, even if it is online, that person-to-person connection through everything that you're doing, even if it's not an actual person-to-person meeting, the more authentic your brand. And many of our guests have been able to tell that story too, of how they've been, even just the larger companies and brands that we've had on, have been able to tell how they've been able to stay to their customer and understand the core base that they have.
Well, guys, as we get close to wrapping up, I'd love to hear what's next for the podcast. What do you guys see in the future?
It's a great question. What is next for us?
Yeah, well,
Mr. Visionary.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to keep recording, putting out content. We did just start a new series, kind of backstage. I don't even know the name of it.
Bourbon and Business Backstage.
Bourbon and Business
You were so
Backstage.
close.
That's how new it is. But kind of going to go more behind the curtain of what's going on and what we've been doing. And we'll have Adam on. Adam's the brains of the operation, so he's able to put everything into detail to make it make sense to everybody. Versus, I'm more off the cuff, and then Dakota's trying to just keep me in line. So, but
It's a big job, isn't it, Dakota?
I'm here, man.
but yeah, we got that going. Probably do some more traveling here in the near future, and we've got some cool maybe sponsorship opportunities that we would love to share with our audience. But obviously, for obvious reasons, we can't talk about those yet.
And you're about to hear about those right now on the news.
But if you are a sponsor that's listening, go ahead. Let's get this done.
That's right. Sign the papers. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What am I missing, guys?
Maybe some merchandise coming out. In the
Okay.
near future
Very cool.
too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
LED logos.
That's right.
Like it, guys. Well,
Yeah, we're really trying to increase the amount of content that we put out and staying authentic to ourselves as well. Like you said, I've thought about, combining things before and going back to our past episodes. We do recap episodes every year of kind of like our top 4 that stood out, or, top 3. That's always a fun time. So, just going back, and you never know who's going to stop you on the street and be like, dude, you had my best friend on the other day,
Right.
so-and-so. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you knew them. It was a cool person. It was a great interview.
Yeah.
And many times, who are you again?
What's even worse is someone's like, hey, so-and-so. I'm like, no, I don't think I know them. Like, well, you interviewed them on the podcast. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know.
After 100 episodes, a couple might fade. It's just part of it. And then you got people making life changes, from Tyler in the gym getting stopped. And
story.
Guy stopped me in the gym, and he was telling me he listened to the podcast, how he liked it. And he was like, I actually just quit my job based off some advice y'all gave on the podcast.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm starting a new career. And I was like, oh God. But he's been doing it now for about 2 years, been very successful at it. So, we saw a success story from that, not a negative.
Right.
But,
We now have disclaimers at the bottom of the episode.
But, things like that, it kind of keeps us pushing forward, that knowing that there's people listening, it is making a difference.
No doubt.
And, also being able to feature just get the information out there that what these business owners are doing, kind of like we talked about, research and trying to figure out ways to improve your business. You can tune in and get that information pretty quick.
Well, guys, we do like to end each episode with a hot take, and sometimes it's about marketing, but I feel like this one is very appropriate for you guys. What bourbon is on your shelf right now at home? And if it's a bunch, give us your favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy for me. Monks Road 5th District Series. That's my favorite. It's a limited series. They're not making any more of it.
Where's it out of?
It's an old distillery that I can't remember the guy's name. His grandson started it based out of his grandfather's old distillery, which was like a famous distillery in and of itself. They've got it from our sponsor at Cheers Vineyard in Gluckstadt. So definitely go check them out if you haven't yet, because they're fantastic. JT up there has knowledge about any bottle in that store. But yeah, that's been my favorite so far. I've only got like half the bottle left because I reserve it for special occasions.
Yeah, right.
You know, if it's been a really long week or something, I'll be like, all right, it's time. You know? But yeah, that one's my favorite.
I mean, we've tried a ton of bourbons, and maybe it's just the Carroll County in me. I don't know, but I'm a wild turkey guy. You know, I like the Wellers, I like the Monks Road. All those are good, but if I have to pick a bottle up and I'm going to drink one, it's going to be Wild Turkey.
So episode 100 and 101, we had Mark Borchetta on of Borchetta Bourbon. They also have a Big Label record. Big Machine, record label. Great episode. And on our trip to Nashville, we were actually able to bottle our own bourbon. And so that's awesome. Yeah, we all got our bottle. We all got to sign it and everything. So that's among one of my favorites.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for your time today and for sharing with our audience. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for watching another episode. Have a great week.